All right, in Illustrator, you got to make sure you know what tool you're using, and there's a lot of options in here. So we're going to explore different tools, how to change tools, and how to change the options for those tools as well. Here we go. We have a tools panel over on the right-hand side. It actually has two features, and what we could do is we could even collapse it to one, but my monitor just isn't quite wide enough or tall enough here to use all those. So I'm going to go back and have two. And so yours might be showing you as one column of tools, or it might have several columns, and you can use, and you can see the idea there. You can even float those, but I like having them docked on the side. So I'm going to go ahead and dock them. Well, probably the most important tool is the selection tool. It's one that's maybe the most intuitive as well. It allows you to select objects depending on how they're grouped or individual elements, but you can select the entire object and move it. But you also have several other tools for selecting, and you can see here, well, there's a slight line that shows you that these tools are all kind of related, and they're all selecting tools. And then you have several tools that are related to drawing and painting. The next group has to do with editing, and then we have some tools for viewing and with filling strokes and etc. So we got lots of different tools in here as we're going through, and different kinds of tools. Another thing you might notice is a lot of these tools have a small triangle next to them, and that tells you that there's more tools available, hidden tools. And one way to access the hidden tools is you click and hold on that triangle, and it opens up this extra list of tools, and you can simply click on a tool. Another option is you can hold down the Alt key in Illustrator, and you can cycle through the different tools that are in that list. All right? And then one of my favorite things that you can do in Illustrator is that you can click on this, and you can see there's a tearaway, and if you click on that tearaway, it pulls out the tools so that you can actually access them as needed. Now with this tearaway, it doesn't matter if you close it or leave it open, you still have the same tools. They're always going to be listed here. It's just a matter of sometimes they're available and as a tearaway, and sometimes they're not. So just how you access it. Again, so what I'm doing is clicking and holding that for a moment, let go of my mouse, and then I come over here and I tap that again. It's kind of a two-step process. All right, so then if I were to click on a tool, for example, rectangle tool, you can see that I got this crosshair. And if I click on the brush, I get a brush. And so you actually have a cursor. And in version CS6, the cursors are a little more precise than they were in the past. One thing, though, I'm going to do is I'm going to press my caps lock. When I press my caps lock, that can change some of the appearances. So the brush now looks different. Here's the caps lock off and on. Let's see what it does with the square. Still looks okay. But you're going to see sometimes the tool doesn't quite look like a tool, and just check your caps lock to see if it's on or not. That's actually a preference that's over here on the side. Now you can also access these tools with keyboard shortcuts. If I hover over the brush, I'm going to notice that there's a B. If I hover over the rectangle, there's an M. There's a V. So watch what happens when I press the letter V for the very important selection tool, or the M for the different objects. I guess you could think of it like make a rectangle, or the B, that one's easy, for the brush, right? So you can have these different tools that you can access to see different options. Well, you can also create some of your own keyboard shortcuts, and if you're a keyboard person, you might appreciate the fact that there's a list in the edit menu of all the different keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and it opens up these different keyboard shortcuts. Here's my set, my Illustrator defaults. And I'm looking at the tools, right? And I can actually see all the different keyboard shortcuts that are available of how to access these different tools. Some of them have their own. And I can also check out the menu commands. And I can see, for example, in the File menu, different keyboard shortcuts, or the Edit menu. You can see a lot of them are actually using the Control key to get there. Well, if you're someone who uses a lot of Adobe products, you might have keyboard shortcuts that you use in products like Photoshop or InDesign or Dreamweaver, and then you try them out in Illustrator, and most of the time they're going to work. There's going to be a few exceptions, but most of the time they work. Well, you know, I am someone who uses Illustrator in Design a lot, and so I'm used to the keyboard shortcut of Control D for place, but there is no shortcut for that. In fact, Control D is actually a shortcut in Illustrator for transform again. So if I find myself sometimes doing this Control D and actually getting some different results than what I expected. Let me go ahead and undo here. So what I'm going to do is go into my keyboard shortcuts, and I can actually customize these different shortcuts. So here's my menu commands, and under File, I'm going to go ahead to where Place is, and I'm going to create my own shortcut. I'm going to just go ahead and choose Control D. Now when I click on that, it tells me that this shortcut is already in use by the Transform Again command. And so that if I use Control D, I'm actually going to be removing the keyboard shortcut for Transform Again. So one option is I could do that and I would be able to fix it. Another option is I could simply try a different shortcut like Control Alt D, and I can see down there that there's no conflict. I'm going to go actually try this Control D. Let's try this again. Here we go, Control D. And it does have that conflict. It's already selected it, so that's fine. And I'm going to go over here to my object to transform again, and I'm going to make this one Control Alt D. And so now this is a new shortcut. It's no longer the default. And you can see up here it says Custom Set. So what I could actually do is save this was my own set, and then I could toggle back and forth between the Illustrator defaults or the ones that I've set in there. And I'm going to go back actually to Illustrator defaults, and you can see when I return to Illustrator defaults that in the object under Transform it went back to Control D, and in File Place there is no shortcut anymore. But if you are a keyboard person, this feature called Export Text will allow you to save those keyboard shortcuts as a text file, and then you could have access to them at all times and be able to learn keyboard shortcuts even faster. And of course, these shortcuts are also available when you're seeing in the menu. You can see over on the side, some of the more common ones are available in the menu. I'm not sure if I would call that a common keyboard shortcut, but it's good that it's all there together. And I'm going to look at some preferences as well. Since we're changing some of these preferences, let's go ahead and take a look at General. With the general preferences, you do have some options related to your tools. For example, do you want to have tooltips available? And I like having these shortcuts. I never change these. And then there's also the stuff about precise cursors. And we were using our caps lock to turn that on and off, but that's essentially what precise cursors is talking about. There's also some stuff with plugins and scratch disks, and those are ways to, again, give you more tools, more features. And these are going to be extra features that you have to install. Some of them are free, some of them you purchase, and you might download them from, let's say, Adobe Exchange website or just whatever tools you have. But this would have you an option of different plugins that you might have available as well. But in Illustrator, it's always about choosing the tool that you want to work with and being aware of what tool you have as well as the options that that tool is giving you.